What's up, SR Lounge friends? This is Post-Production Pi, Editor-in-Chief for srlounge.com. Welcome to another installment of our weekly Ordinary to Extraordinary Raw Edit featuring the SR Lounge Lightroom Preset System V5. Now, as always, we're going to be demonstrating how to create the effect first using the preset system, and then, of course, we'll be going through the detailed developed settings just to help everybody understand what's going on. Now, because we've gone through so many of these, we're going to be going over mainly what's different in our developed settings just to go over a little bit quicker. A lot of you have already seen, well, a lot of these. This is like number 25 in our tutorial examples. So we don't want to spend too much time going over those individual settings. If you are missing anything, then check out previous episodes where we go through in more detail than these later ones. These are more advanced episodes, all right? Now, of course, if you don't have the preset system and you're interested in learning more, be sure to check out the link at the bottom of this video in the description to take you to the SR Lounge store where you can see more about the SR Lounge Lightroom Preset System. That being said, let's get started editing this image. In this video, we have this awesome shot of this groom and groomsmen. Well, actually, it's not awesome yet, but we're going to make it awesome. It's actually quite average right now, but this is what I'm all about when it comes to post-production. I'm all about taking average images or images that have potential and really turning them into wowzers. And that's really the entire concept with our ordinary to extraordinary edits. Now, my vision for this is, again, kind of going with that black and white filmic high contrast look that we did in the last preset. But this time we're going to take it a bit further. We're going to do more brush adjustments. We're going to kind of fix certain things that we have kind of going on in the image. So let's talk about it. A couple of things that we have going on. Let's first look at the overall settings. This was shot on a D700. It was at, let's see, on a 7200 f2.8, but it was shot at 110 millimeters. So we have good background compression, really nice overall image. It was shot at 1/250th of a second, f2.8, ISO 800, and it was shot with flash. So we can see obviously the flash is coming off from the left, and this is creating a couple different issues that we want to try and solve with production. Number one is that everything on the left side of the image is going to be brighter than everything on the right side of the image. So we need to offset that. Number two, we also have a lot of flashes kind of splashing and hitting the ground, and I want to try and reduce some of that as well as some on the ceiling. And the next thing we're going to try and do is really bring focus in, and part of that's going to be in creating this black and white effect. Part of it is going to be in really kind of dodging and burning using our radial filter, or basically dodging certain areas of this image to bring attention to our groomsmen. Now, if I'm talking extra fast right now, it's because it's like 1:20 in the morning and I really want to get this video done. All right, let's get started with this image. We're going to start over here. Again, I'm going for that high contrast black and white look with grain, and so I want to start with a punchy fade in our vivid stylize, and this gets us really close to a finished image. We just need to make some adjustments from here. Let's take our exposure up just a bit. I'm going to drag right to about there, and this is looking solid. I'm actually happy with the way kind of everything looks in the image. I like the contrast. I like all of the global adjustments with that single click. What we need to do now is make local adjustments. Okay, so let's just check out the before and the after at this point. Here's that before. Already we have a much better image with this black and white. You can see where I'm going, where this is this kind of shot of these dudes. It's just this epic image of these groomsmen coming down. Our main man in the center, right on this line, looks like he's the freaking president of the United States. It's awesome looking. All right, so let's kind of balance this out now. We'll go through the adjustments and kind of the settings in just a moment, but most everything, if you guys have gone through the previous tutorials, you already know exactly what's going on anyway. We're going to start with a graduate filter. I'm going to turn off my information by hitting I as well. And we're going to start by just with, let's do a half stop burn, and then we're going to start from this left side, and I'm just going to click and drag right about here on the image and drag right over to about the center. Okay, so that way we're feathering essentially all the way into the groomsmen, or into our what is it, our main man, our groom. Okay, now with that adjustment made, we can go in and adjust our exposure in the overall image and just see if we've kind of got it where we want. So I'm going to go a little bit on the brighter side now that we have the left side a little bit chilled out, and this is looking pretty solid right there. Okay, just making sure, I want to make sure our left guy is the same kind of brightness as our right guy. Our bright guy is, our right guy over here is kind of, well, he's a white guy, so his skin is a little more reflective, so he looks a little bit brighter. And this guy, you can tell he's a little more tan, so I think overall we've balanced it correctly for ethnicity. All right, so let's go ahead and let's grab an adjustment brush now, and we're going to go and just kind of burn and darken certain areas. So I want to really darken this splash where we're hitting the ground over here, and it's kind of fading off to this right side. So once again, I'm going to apply more of an effect over on the left than I am on the right. And what I'm going to do is just kind of click to drag down. And then all we're going to do is just kind of balance it out by subtracting in certain areas. Okay, so I'm subtracting here, just kind of getting a nice feather so that it eases off into this. Actually, I kind of want it down there. Let's leave it there. Okay, so this is looking pretty dang solid. If we want, we can pull it up here a little bit. I actually kind of do. I'm going to pull it up here on this left side a little bit. And we can add another layer of this too. I can hit new and we can add another layer. That makes it a little bit easier. You can also do the same thing basically by adjusting the flow. I'm a little bit more used to, as far as my workflow goes, just adding additional layers if I need it. That way I have individual control of these layers and I can kind of make adjustments accordingly. So that looks pretty dang good right there. We have a nice even graduation off into this dark area in front. Let's do the same thing with the ceiling, but this time we're going to go and grab a graduate filter because it's mostly pretty even right here on the top. So let's just pull down holding shift once again. I'm going to pull down from the top and then we're just going to drag all the way down to the feather reaches the top of the groomsmen heads. Okay, and we're just going to pull this down a little bit. I'm going to bring it down right to about there, and we're going to make additional adjustments again with just a graduate brush. So again, with a graduate brush with a 0.5 burn, we're going to just take out the top a little bit more. Okay, so we're kind of just reducing a little bit of the detail in the top here. So we have this nice fade off into black. Not into black, but just into a little bit darker of a look. All right, so this is looking pretty dang solid. If I do say so myself, I'm going to adjust up one click on exposure. I think that's okay. Actually, what we can do is, the guys on the right are pretty good. The guys on the left are a little bit dark. So what I can do is just revisit that graduated filter that we applied. And I'm just going to bring it up by one click, just one tiny click. Okay, and it looks fine right there. All right, this is looking solid. If I feel like this left side is a little bit bright, I can always just grab a graduate filter and drag it diagonally just over that left side. What I want to be careful of is that basically I'm not making this light over here that's blown fade to a gray. And it shouldn't, because our preset is kind of clipping the highlights anyway, so it should just fade to kind of the same color as all the other stuff that's being clipped in that highlight region. But we're going to just drag this to about right here, get a nice even tone. And this is starting to look really solid. I'm loving this. All right, let's just check our crop and see if we like it. What I'm going to do is adjust this to maybe a 2:1 just to get a little more emphasis, a little more cinematic of a feel here. And let's pull it in just a tiny bit to center up our groomsmen. I'm also going to just click to drag a little bit just to kind of center these lines and kind of flatten out the lines a little more. That's a little bit too much. Let's straighten up just a tiny bit. Right there. This line in the back is a really good indicator line just to make sure everything's straight. So I'm just using that line right now. Okay, so this looks solid. We have this awesome epic shot now of our groomsmen. If we want, we can tweak vignetting just a bit to darken the edges of the frame. And I might do that just because I don't want the cars to be as visible. So let's go from a light to maybe a medium. And this is looking good. If we want more control, we don't want it to go quite in as much, we can always just, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let's leave it as a light, and what I'm going to do now is let's grab this radial filter, and this is going to be a cool effect because it's going to apply basically over all the faces. So what we're going to do, we could do the same thing again with a graduated filter, or with an adjustment brush. We're going to have to click and paint around. So if you're in Lightroom 4, grab the adjustment filter, you're going to paint around the area that we're creating this oval. I'm going to create the oval, we're going to go right across the center just like this. Okay, we're going to flatten it out a bit, and then we're going to feather it quite a bit. Okay, so we want to feather it so we can see this little graduation in tone right there. So if we go too much, it gets too sharp and too hard of an edge. We want to just feather right to the point where it becomes kind of subtle and just a very nice overall effect. Now we can go and create, or we can just test out the effect and just adjust to the right point by just grabbing the exposure and taking it up and down. Right here at about 0.6, I think we're pretty solid. Let's check it out. And I'm digging it. We can take our overall exposure down just one tiny click. Actually, yeah, let's take it down one tiny click. And there we go. We have our image, guys. So let's check this out. I'm going to hit backslash to see the before. Here is our after. We have this epic groomsman walking shot. I dig it. Really super cool filmic look. Very manly. I don't think there's a single groomsman that wouldn't like this shot. All right, and it came a long way from this original, which really, when you look at it, it doesn't have a lot of potential. And that's why we always say when you approach things from a shooting standpoint, approach it from a vision of what you want to do in post-production, because you can do that much more with it. I'm going to do one tiny thing. I'm going to back off just this radial filter one notch, maybe 2 notches. It's a little bit strong for my taste as I'm looking at it. This is looking a little bit better. At least for me. All right, this is awesome. I'm going to go through real quick just the develop setting, or at least what's different here. With our basic, you've already seen what's been done. We added a bit of contrast. We pulled down highlights and whites, and we're also crushing a little bit of blacks just to get some more contrast in our image. We have that vintage punch, so we're adding some shadow clipping or black clipping. We're adding some highlight clipping, and then pulling up the midtone highlights, pulling down the midtone shadows for that punchy fade look. Going down, we have the same amount of detail that we've always had, 71.5, 10, 30. We have our lens video that we dropped in a little bit just to kind of darken the edges a little bit. We have our standard amount of grain that was added with this preset, and I think it's enough for this. Even with the web size version of this, I think this is enough grain. I'm not going to go and add more to this. It looks solid, and you saw the rest of the adjustments that we made were really to kind of fine tune and tweak the overall exposure of the image, just to get everything dodged and burned and kind of bring attention right in the center of the image. So great job. Once again, here's that before. Here's our final black and white, high contrast, filmic vintage look with our groomsmen, our epic groomsmen walk. All right, hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see you all in the next episode.